Welcome to the Big Pop Podcast. I'm your host, Sully, aka Kayfabe Crimes, and I'm joined by my co-host.
Nav the poet.
And today we are going to be doing, as Nov likes to call it, an audit of Triple H. Now, why don't you explain to the people what this process is going to be like?
Yeah, so I mean, it's been almost 3 years now that Triple H has officially been in charge of creative for
Hmm.
WWE. So we feel like it's a good time to look at the work he's done, explore the positives, the negatives, and different kind of just our thoughts about how his booking has gone so far.
Okay. So I'm gonna, you know what? I'm gonna start off slightly positive. I think because I'm a wrestling guy. I think the wrestling, especially on main roster, has improved quite a lot. It's not brilliant, it's not perfect, but it is significantly better than the wrestling we would get under Vince McMahon, especially on the weekly shows.
Yeah, yeah, I can't argue there. I think there's definitely more time given to pretty much every division. Uh,
Hmm.
Different weeks, different time. Some will
Yeah.
get shorter matches, but I think that's fine. I think that's how it kind of should be
Hmm.
in general, where there is a trade-off, right? Like
Yeah.
maybe, the main event, typically W format is main event, open and close
Yeah.
the show, right? Whether that's a segment or a match. I think some weeks you can give them just a 5 minute opener. It doesn't have to always be a
Yeah.
20 minute, monologue or whatever. It can just be a quick
Mm.
thing, and then you move on to a match and give that 15 of those 20 minutes.
Yeah. I mean, I think a way they could improve. You've watched NXT for a while, right?
Yeah,
You were
pretty
watching it when it was
much.
black and gold.
I was
Yeah.
watching when it was still like
Oh, a game
developmental.
show.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, even
Oh
2010,
God.
but yeah, I've literally watched since the
Uh,
beginning.
okay, but like when it was black and gold, I really liked that they would oftentimes just start with a match,
Right.
and they didn't have to have a big promo. They'd maybe have like a video package to like highlight what's happening this week or whatever, but they'd basically go right into a match. And maybe it's because NXT, especially then, was just a Full Sail, so
Mhm.
you had that inbuilt core audience who would have reacted to just the wrestlers coming out anyway. But I think even doing something like that, just starting with a match, or even, not having to have the exact same beats every week, which they kind of do on main roster, would help.
Yeah, yeah, that's what I was alluding to. You're just expanding
Yeah.
on it. But I do agree, though, to stay positive, that the
Hmm.
wrestling is significantly improved. They give more, and this kind of gets into my first positive, which
Okay.
is that Triple H has given more opportunities to more wrestlers.
Hmm.
I still think there's a long way to go with it, but
Oh
you
yeah.
know, as much as I have gripes with how they book Chad Gable, you can't deny that
Hmm.
he's been used way more under Triple H than he ever was under Vince, and he's given character and personality that is more suitable to
Hmm.
him versus Shorty G. Um, you know, uh, Jey Uso, Sami Zayn. They
Yeah.
getting a lot of spotlight in the last few years. Kevin Owens as well. Again, I don't agree with all of their booking. I
Yeah, of
wish
course.
KO and Sammy won more, but can't
Hmm.
deny that they haven't been featured more.
Yeah.
Um, and then even he does, and it's a hard balancing act, so I have to give him some grace, but he does a decent job of like, okay, this show may have the IC championship as the centerpiece, right?
Yeah.
And that's like the main event, so they kind of build that story. Or, the Carmelo Andrade feud of the best of seven series
Yeah.
or whatever. Like, again, we can argue the booking and how well it
Hmm.
went, but
Yeah.
they are still being spotlighted and people are
True.
talking about it. Um, and then obviously the people they want to push, they give them obviously plenty of time. And but there's
Hmm.
more of them, right? It isn't. I always think back to like 2010, 2011. There was
Yeah.
a story for Cena, there was a story for Randy, and then there might have been a story for The Miz, and that was pretty much it. No one else really had important stories going on.
Yeah.
Whereas
Yeah.
now you can easily look and like even the main event scene, you can argue there's like 7 to 10 people within the men's
Hmm.
division, right?
True.
Where before it was Cena, Orton,
Yeah.
and
It was Cena Orton and just a revolving character who was gonna lose to them, maybe get a win to add a little jeopardy, and then back to Cena Orton just chugging along.
yeah. So
Uh,
I definitely appreciate that from Triple H that he does allow for more opportunity. Definitely think there's room for it to be even more open for time
yeah.
to be given, but way more than Vince ever had done, at
Yeah.
least in the last 15 years.
Oh, 100%. Like solid B, I'd give him. Maybe a B plus
Yeah, I can agree with
if I'm
that.
feeling generous.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll throw it over to you. Anything you want to highlight, negative or positive?
Yeah. So in contrast to that point,
Okay.
is the lack of focus on both the women's and tag divisions,
Yeah,
right?
I was waiting for you to bring that up because like,
Yeah.
did he?
Yeah, because I mean, both things can be true, right?
Yeah.
And I think the biggest example of his I don't know if I should say failure, but his uh pitfall with this is literally the first big thing he did, which was forming Damage Control.
Yeah.
Right? Bailey returns after I think 9 months of an injury.
Yeah, it was a long time.
They call up Io Shirai, which side note, she should have never had her name changed.
Yeah, Io Shirai was such a good name.
Yeah, especially because they still call her the Genius of the Sky, and just like it's bad repetition to say the
Exactly,
Genius of
yeah.
the Sky, Io Sky. It just doesn't work.
Yeah,
Versus the rhyme of Shirai and Sky was 100% better.
100%. I agree.
Whatever. And then they rehired Dakota Kai. And
Yeah.
I was super hyped because I like all three of them.
Yeah.
And also, we hadn't at that point seen a women's faction. So I thought, okay, I could be
Unless you
wrong though.
count you when he called up the likes of
Oh,
the
right.
four
Yeah.
horsewomen, they had those like
Absolution.
mini three women
That's
factions, yeah.
true. I guess Absolution was a faction, but like it only further highlights the point. They
Yeah,
didn't do anything with
it's
these
like
factions.
it's like faction under Vince and then like an actual faction.
Yeah. So I thought, oh, cool, we're gonna get a real women's faction that actually
Yeah.
has significance, is a better way to put it, right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, with people like Bailey, who I know Triple H is fond of, Io
Hmm.
Shirai, who I know Triple H is fond of as well. I was like, well, this can't fail. This is gonna be great. And then they were just fodder for Bianca for like a year.
Yeah. Yeah, and then after that it became like, oh, I guess let's just put all the Japanese women there. Dakota,
Yeah,
you speak Japanese, that kind of counts.
right. I think she wrestled
Right.
with them, so whatever. It's
Yeah.
osmosis.
Yeah. Yeah,
Uh,
I agree. I think that damage because it was the first match of that SummerSlam as well, wasn't it?
yeah, Becky
I
versus
believe it
Bianca.
was
Bianca
Bianca. Yeah,
won. They shake hands,
yeah,
and then Bailey
damage.
returns.
Yeah, yeah. And so it's like, wow, this is the Triple H era started, and then it's like that. Yeah, I think they still refer to like Io, Kyrie, and well, Kyrie's injured, obviously. Io and Dakota together, they tangentially call them Damage Control. I
Yeah,
think at WrestleMania they said Io, the leader of Damage Control, but like they were just kind of there. Even when they were had their full forces, they were just like a fodder for whoever the leader of the faction was to lose to.
right. They
The,
even
yeah.
they even attempted to use them to build up what were they called? The Sonya faction? I don't remember.
Oh,
Pure Fusion Collective.
yeah,
Yeah, they even used damage control to attempt to build them up, but failed because nobody cares about Shayna and Zoe.
yeah, which is a shame.
Yeah, and it just also got damage control more over. It turned them babyface, which
Yeah,
then rightfully had people cheering EO as they should have been this whole time.
yeah. But that also goes into the lack of care when it comes to the women's division because it's like they'll set something up and then they just hope it works. It's like they set it up. This is the end goal, and instead of, meandering with how crowds are reacting or, kind of just the way things are going, they're just like, here's our start point, here's the end point, this is the line we're going to do, and they just follow through with that instead of actually, you know, wrestling is, it's not like regular television where, you're gonna, well, it's not like a seasonal television show where you have your episodes plotted out. You can change the story at a whim if you want to.
Yeah, yeah, and everything I said pretty much applies to the tag division, even more so actually, because I think the
Yeah, way
women
more.
have gotten more focus for sure. Not even I think they definitely have gotten more focus. Like again, argue about the booking, but Rhea and Liv was one of the top stories for 2024 for them, right? Rhea
Yeah.
is one of the biggest stars in the company. That doesn't happen without focusing on the women.
I mean, they had a TLC triple threat match on a SmackDown. Like
Yo,
that's prime WrestleMania material. That's like
so mad.
you can throw in the Jeff Hardy clips, especially now that he's in TNA. You can throw in the Dudley Boy clips, but no, they were like, let's put. I didn't even know what match they put on instead. Logan Paul, AJ Styles.
Yeah. Or even like we talked about it during our review, you shouldn't have had Jade and Naomi and the New Day and War Raiders. If you remove those two, probably would have had enough time for the triple threat.
Yeah, yeah, like
Those should have been on the respective WrestleMania Raw and SmackDowns.
yeah, have those main event both those shows as
Yeah,
well. This would
yeah.
have been big for them as well.
You could have even
But
with the Jade Naomi thing, if you do it the SmackDown after Mania, you
mm,
can now slide Bianca into the story
mhm.
there then because now
Yeah,
she's freed
actually.
up. I mean, again, arguing about the booking of that, but like all that aside, it was just
But it also goes the women's thing, bringing Bianca into this. She had that story set up, and then Triple H was like, "Oh, I want to pop her rating. I'm gonna put her in that women's match,
yeah,
the title match." Sorry.
right. Yeah. And so yeah, I like and it's we've discussed this before. I don't know why they're so uh resistant to making tag team wrestling interesting,
Yeah,
especially with Triple H kind of revitalized, at least in
I was gonna
WWE.
say.
In WWE revitalized tag team wrestling in NXT. I mean, the
Yeah.
Revival, American Alpha, the Undisputed Era, the Street Profits, War
Yeah.
Raiders. I'm sure
Even
that.
the those two guys that would carry across for a while.
Oh yeah, AOP.
AOP.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, this is a slight tangent. I genuinely one of the main reasons I got into NXT was the tag wrestling.
Yeah.
Like I remember fondly it was the Mighty Don't Kneel against AOP in a Paul
Mm,
Ellering in a cage match. Spectacular match. It was fantastic.
yeah. Yeah. One of my favorite feuds is Gargano and Ciampa DIY versus the Revival.
Yeah.
I mean, the matches they had, and there was like a I remember, oh, it was a triple threat. They were facing AOP, I believe, as well. It was like
Hmm.
a triple threat, and it was each member of each team like did the one each other's move. So like
Yeah.
Gargano and Dawson, I don't remember who it was, but
Yeah.
Gargano and Revival
FTR Bold.
one hit the shatter machine and then the other two did the meet in the middle. I was just like,
Mm.
this is so brilliant, the like creativity. Or when
Yeah.
both of them, Champa and Gargano, locked in their submissions, and then
And the
Dawson
oh.
and yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
they're holding their hand. Like there's just so many moments like that that you just the ladder match that the Street Profits won the titles, and then there's so many great moments. Even the Dusty Classic, like
Yeah.
I'm not a fan of the random pairing
Hmm.
situation, but they made it work because they gave us good matches where you're just like,
Yeah, exactly.
okay, yeah, these two are a great team that work together. Sure.
But on main roster, they're like, well, I guess we have to give the titles to the New Day. We turned them heel 6 months ago. Let's do something with them.
Yeah. Yeah. What's your next positive, negative point, I guess?
It is a negative, and I think I alluded to it slightly earlier. He still does the Vince thing, where for the most for a lot of his booking is centered around getting a pop. And I think this is something we've discussed in like a previous episode. You should go back and watch that episode, guys. There's a
Yeah.
whole playlist for all of our episodes for you to go and watch. Um, he will consistently do this thing where instead of having sensical storytelling week by week, he will have a big moment one week. For 3 weeks, he'll be kind of like, yeah, guys, remember that thing we did 3 weeks ago? And then he'll have another moment the following week. And it's just like, dude, like you have a writing team, you know? Like
Yeah.
you always have vacancies for your writing team as well. Just like hire people and have them for like 2 years.
Jerry, hire me. I've been applying to you for
Oh,
like a literal decade at this point,
oh man.
and I
The,
write
whenever
better stories than you. Sorry.
dude. Hey guys, you just subscribe so then we can start our own promotion.
Yeah. But I agree with that. That's literally a point I wrote. I literally wrote the words stories lack cohesion or sense.
Yeah.
And your example of they they focus on that one moment from several weeks ago is so on point. I mean, it's the Cena thing is a great example. Like they're just gonna keep
Mm.
talking about it. Same with Rhea losing her title. It's like, oh, 4 weeks ago, Rhea lost. And I get it. It's important to remind people of the
Yeah.
story, but not much happens in the interim. And this
Yeah.
is to use a current story storyline. My fear is that for the next few months, honestly,
Hmm.
Seth Rollins and Braun Breaker are just going to be standing tall at the end of like every
Yeah.
Raw, every PLE,
Yeah.
because you can't kill their momentum. You have to push them hard. So what is the need for us to watch? I just know how it's going to end, and it is just
Hmm.
ending with Braun spearing people, which
Yeah.
I've already ranted about. I'm not going to do it again. I'm just so sick of it though.
It's literally the problem AEW had for like for most of last year, where it was Dean Ambrose, John Moxley, every Dynamite ending with them standing tall at the end of the show, and people got bored, and it took them finally being like, "Let's do something different at the end of a Dynamite," for people to be like, "Whoa, this is great," and
Right.
I think WWE's going to do the exact same thing, like you said. It's going to be Seth, Braun, maybe if they add someone else. It's going to be them standing tall until like SummerSlam or something, maybe later.
Probably later because SummerSlam's where they'll probably one of them will win.
Yeah,
Like
something.
Seth will probably win he has to win the championship at this point, honestly.
Yeah, who's the mid card champion on?
Dom.
Oh, it's Dom. Yeah, they're not
Yeah.
going to do anything with Dom.
No,
He's
he's
going
gonna
to
be
be titled with
separate.
Penta and yeah, Finn.
Yeah. So it's probably Seth that's
Yeah,
taking it from Jay, honestly.
yeah, it makes the most sense. And then they'll set up. He'll probably hold it until Mania. He'll
Right.
probably retain at Mania as well.
He's probably gonna hold it till Mania because he's probably facing Punk at Mania. They're probably gonna do Punk
That
Seth
makes sense. And
finally.
and what they're gonna do for the entire time is they're gonna do the same thing until SummerSlam, then SummerSlam till, and then their next big thing is gonna be War Games.
Yeah.
They're gonna have a big War Games match. Then they're gonna do a callback to War Games until the Rumble. And at the Rumble, I don't. Maybe Punk will win that,
Yeah.
and then from Rumble to Mania, they're just gonna talk about how okay, maybe that'll be good because they'll cut good promos.
It
But
will, but
like, yeah,
in the
the it,
middle, there's
yeah,
just going to be a lot of repetitive booking, a lot of repetitive
hmm
storytelling, and just no real development of the characters. But
hmm
again, because they pull off the big moments, they get away with it.
yeah. He's gonna make someone bleed at some point, and
Yeah.
it's like, oh my God! And it's just every week, it's like, do you remember when he made him bleed?
Yeah.
Do you guys remember that?
Right. Yeah.
And yeah, instead of actually progressing this, on a short term basis as well, they do this. Um, Gunther versus Pat McAfee. Gunther beats him up last week, and instead of doing the thing where you write off Pat for like a few months, and he comes back and it's this big triumphant thing, it's like it's going to be Pat cutting a promo every week until uh Backlash, and then I don't know, Goldberg will turn up. to be Goldberg cutting promos until SummerSlam.
Dude, I didn't watch Raw this week. I'm kind of re-entering the maybe watch the PLEs and read the
Yeah,
results for the weekly show. But when I heard that it's Gunther and McAfee and Logan Paul and Jey Uso, I was just like, I do not care about this show. I don't know if I'm gonna
yeah.
watch it live, honestly. I'm just like, this is a not an interesting show.
It's a
And like
skip.
treating Gunther like this, I know to them they think, oh, it's a big deal, but I'm just like, he's so much more, he's so above a match
Yeah.
with Pat McAfee.
Do you have a positive?
So I kind of touched on it. They do the really big moments really well.
Hmm. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
can't take that away from them. I've just soured on it because I've gotten used to it now. And that's the thing,
Yeah.
3 years now, I'm like, okay, I see the patterns of how he books and he does at the big five, big four, whatever, he does the big moments. He does again, does them really well. I'm
Yeah.
working really hard to be more positive on this episode, but yeah, like the even though I disagreed with Cody losing at 39, just like the whole moment of it was like deflating in like in a great storytelling way.
Hmm.
Um, then him winning at 40 with the whole kind of Avengers Assemble moment and
Yeah.
everything. Amazing. Like I can't take anything away from that. It was fun, and sometimes that's all you need wrestling to be is fun.
Yeah.
CM Punk's return, amazing,
Hmm.
right? Even the Randy Orton return that same night, which people
Yeah.
kind of forget, but the as much as I disagreed with it, the turn with Heyman of
Yeah.
Heyman on Punk and Reigns,
Big
great.
moment.
Yeah. 95% of the time they hit those big moments really well. And so I got to give them the props for that because like I said, that sustains people and lets them kind of like get away with mediocre
Yeah.
booking.
Yeah. Yeah. I can't disagree. Like when it's very much sometimes I'll wake up and look at my films, like especially like because I don't watch all the PLEs.
Right.
So it's like, oh, they did that thing. Whoa. And the, and then I keep positive, and then sometimes they follow through, mostly not.
Right.
But and then 3 months later, I'd be like, "Whoa, they did that thing!"
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah,
I do think they treat their the big four, big five, if you want to include Money in the
hmm,
Bank, as kind of like season finales in a way,
yeah,
right? They don't
mm,
treat an individual or like a smaller PLE, like a Backlash,
no,
but they treat WrestleMania, Rumble, Survivor Series, and
just
SummerSlam as some kind of like season finale. So that's when the big things happen. It's literally like
yeah,
watching 22 episode seasons where it's like a whole bunch of filler for like 14
yeah,
of those episodes, and maybe six of them have something of value.
yeah. And actually, it'll be quite interesting to see what they do this year with SummerSlam because it's a 2 night SummerSlam. So I think
Oh gosh.
I, I think, I guess. It'll be even bigger moments, but I also think, just to temper expectations, they're going to go even more down this like rabbit hole of the big things are going to happen at SummerSlam and the big things are going to happen at WrestleMania.
Right.
Those are two big things. Even Rumble kind of feels like it's becoming a facilitate WrestleMania.
Yeah, for sure. Got another thought. It can be positive, negative, whatever you're
Yeah,
feeling.
I don't really have a positive one, but I do feel like from a negative perspective, and this I won't say is 100% on Triple H himself. I feel like WWE feels now even more corporate.
Yeah.
I think obviously it's to do with the TKO merger, but the way they've gone about it and even Triple H's role in it just feels like way too corporate-y. And the thing that really pushed this for me was on the social medias, people took photos of the WrestleMania mat and they were like, what do you guys think about this? And I'm not against having advertisers on the mat. I don't care. It's whatever.
Yeah.
Boxing does it, New Japan does it. But WWE, it's very clear that they don't care about how they do it. They just want the money from it.
Yeah.
Because if you see a New Japan ring, there's double the advertisers, but it's formatted in a way where it looks kind of nice. It
Mm,
don't, it was like there was a Slim Jim logo, there was a Prime bottle, there was like some other thing on the side. Nothing was the same shape in the WWE one. And then also, I don't know if this is a normal thing for the US because we don't really have this. Every single match at WrestleMania had like a sponsor.
yeah,
Like the LEDs around the ring were different for each match.
yeah,
Even your main event, it was like General Insurance or something,
yeah.
and it had a little pixelated man whilst Cody Rhodes was making his entrance, and I'm like, huh? And obviously there is a cultural thing in the UK. We don't really do that even to our sports events. It's very like in the background.
Mm.
But I was like, what do you mean you're sponsoring your main event of WrestleMania?
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty sure if it's not functioning already like this, they will be like bidding wars for
Yeah.
who gets to sponsor which match because like you'd argue that a match with Cena is worth way more because it's going to get more
Mm,
eyes than the random tag team match that nobody cares about.
that's
So it's
true.
going to be like the Super Bowl kind of situation or even WrestleMania, right? Like people bid for hosting WrestleMania. So it's like people are going to start bidding if they're not doing it already, they're going to have companies bidding for real estate for promoting for certain matches, which is insane.
Yeah. And it also felt like at WrestleMania itself, the wrestling took a back seat. And I think this was, we mentioned this in our review, which once again, you should go and watch. Um, it felt like it all took a back seat to what felt like was more like the Super Bowl. And again, maybe from a British perspective, the Super Bowl over here feels like a big advertising thing.
Yeah,
Like, because we don't really watch NFL, and we have the big show once a year here, but
right.
like it just feels like a big like corporate event,
Right.
and it WrestleMania felt like that as well.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I would even argue that the show, like the WWE and as you were saying in general, because like I think on average now we get 4 or 5 matches on a
Mm,
weekly show. On three
yeah,
hours of television, you give 4 to 5 matches. It's not good.
and it's just like Vince McMahon was the guy who was like not doing that. That's like crazy, and I get it. It was like a private company and he would do whatever he wanted with it. And like I said, this isn't all on Triple H, obviously.
Right,
But like you're like the big dog around there. Maybe push back a little bit and be like, hey, maybe let's not have more advertising than wrestling on WrestleMania. Well, let's maybe do that.
right.
But
Yeah, which
yeah.
brings me to a critique that I didn't write down, but I think should be talked about is this is not praising Vince McMahon at all,
Yeah.
but I think that Vince was at least a bit more honest about his like
Hmm.
approach to doing the show. Whereas like
Yeah.
Triple H comes out and says like, oh, like you have to earn your opportunity. Oh, like we care about, what fans think and this and that. Meanwhile, like again, 4 to 5 matches on a card when you could easily have 5 to 6. I think six is a plenty, right? I don't think you
Yeah.
need more than six, but like 4 matches on a card, especially a PLE, like if you're giving us
Mm.
4 on a weekly show, you should be giving us at least 6 on a
Yeah.
PLE, right? But they don't have the time, which doesn't make sense because they're on an app. So they have all the
Yeah,
time in the
exactly.
world. Um, so I just feel like Triple H is more corporate in that way. He like
Yeah.
he gives corporate speak when
Hmm.
he talks about things, especially the show itself. Obviously, the all the other stuff, the numbers, the logistics, that's expected. But for
Yeah.
him to come out and say things like, oh, you just have to earn your spot. Meanwhile, people who are clearly over aren't getting the spot in the sense of like the titles and stuff like that.
Mm.
Um, Obviously that's a generalization. There are some, but there are
Yeah.
plenty others that aren't, is my point.
That's flicked something for me. He is horrible at doing press conferences.
Yeah.
I don't know why TKO haven't sat him down and be like, you need to do like media training. He is not like, and I get it. Like other people are bad at taking serious questions as well, but you are basically the face of the, and he's positioned himself to be the face of the company. You know, he's the
Right.
first thing you saw at WrestleMania. I think he's the first person you saw in the ring at WrestleMania. You know, he's always put himself. He had like 45 different video packages for his Hall of Fame
Yeah.
induction.
Hour-long speech.
So you need to like get better at answering these questions, both ones relevant to kayfabe, but also like the general media stuff. And if you're not going to, don't bother with these press conferences, because
Right.
because you want to give a sports feel, but it's very clear you're not sports in
Yeah.
this. You're entertainment, or just let the wrestlers do it, because clearly you're not good at it.
Dude, let Cody do it. Cody is really good at it. I think Cody's the best one they have. Like and I don't mean this as a knock, but he does come off very like a politician. Um,
2046, Cody Rhodes.
yeah. Yeah, I agree. It's there he's had some poor statements. He's made some really poor statements. And they just seem careless. They don't even seem
Yeah.
like intentional. It's just like he just doesn't think about it.
I think he's so used to just being in an environment where he can say whatever he wants. And because when he says whatever he wants, it's probably not as bad as the stuff Vince would say as
Right.
well. So I think the wrestlers are like, well, at least he's not calling me a slur. Um, so when he's in these semi-real, semi-kayfabe press conferences, he's gonna do that as well. And it's like, you are shooting yourself in the foot at every opportunity, my friend.
Yeah. Yeah. It's never it hasn't been a good look for him. Um, yeah, but I will go to one more positive that I have,
Okay.
which is because they've done it a few times now, their willingness and ability to pivot.
Mm-hmm.
So the two of the biggest storylines we've had in the past couple of years was CM Punk, Seth Rollins. That
Hmm.
didn't happen at last year's Mania
Hmm.
because of Punk's injury, and it led to the best feud of the year
Yeah.
with CM Punk versus Drew McIntyre. So their ability to navigate that, and then in a similar vein, the Cody Rhodes Rock situation that happened before WrestleMania 40. Um, I wholeheartedly believe that was not the plan.
Mm.
Uh, as even Rock has shown that this year it was not the plan. So clearly last year was not the plan either. And they were able to, listen to the fans, make it work. And, it made it better, I
Oh yeah.
guess. But like, it would have been fine if it was just Reigns and Cody anyway.
Hmm.
The extra stuff was really fun. And I'm not saying they shouldn't have had
Yeah.
it, but if we never if we never got that, I think it still would have been really good. And
Yeah.
my point is, they were able to pivot and make something. It's almost like they function better off of that. Weirdly enough,
Yeah. Yeah. I think, like I was saying, they were forced to change the story, and in doing so, they were forced to go down an actually a path where they had to think about it. They couldn't just rest on their laurels. They had to actually actively be like, oh wait, how do we change this to make it to fill in the gap that we no longer have?
right? Exactly. I think they really only do well when they're pushed into a corner and forced to do something different. Because when they're left to just doing what they always do, it's what they always do. So it's the standard WWE format. And as fans for I mean, I've been a fan for 3 decades now.
Yeah.
I've seen pretty much everything you can see in professional wrestling.
Yeah. Maybe they need someone like Vince there. Not Vince. We don't want Vince everyone here
Yeah,
wrestling.
yeah, yeah.
They need someone like Vince there who's gonna be like, no. I would just he walks in, he just tears up the script. He's like, book it right now. It's like, oh my God, okay, we're gonna make it work somehow.
Maybe they need something for sure. They need pushback. They need people to challenge, and like there isn't enough fan cohesion to do that for everything. That's why it only
Hmm.
happens in these waves of these big moments. Otherwise, it'd be great if all of us were revolting for like Chad Gable's booking for the past year. Oh my gosh, it'd be
Yeah.
amazing. But people don't care enough. And something I've seen shared online a lot is that they're starting to push, I don't want to use the word true fans, but
Hmm.
the devoted fans out. They're
Uh,
pricing them out.
yeah. Again, it goes back to the corporatization of it. I think you see it in actual sports as well, but very much the attention is put on hospital. I mean, did you see the premium package for? I think it's for SummerSlam. I'm not sure what the thing is. The 40 grand.
Yeah,
I was like, huh?
yeah,
Like I know it's like meet the superstars, go in the ring, transportation, stuff like that. I'm like, $40,000? That's above the average salary in the UK.
right,
Like for wrestling.
right, right, exactly. And it's like, what? I mean, people are paying for it, but that's a lot
Yeah,
of money to put on one event or one series of events. I know, like, they get the
yeah.
Raw and SmackDown as well, and this and
Hmm.
that. So I don't want to say it's not worth it, but it's so uh extravagant and
Yeah,
so pricey that how the average person can't do that time and time again.
yeah. I
So
mean, even Randy Orton was like, it's embarrassing how expensive
yeah,
tickets to WrestleMania were. And like you said, they're pushing out devoted fans to welcome in only people who can afford the sport. And I don't know about yourself, but I've always seen wrestling as a very working class thing. I'm not, and I know the perception of working class when it comes to sport in particular is very negative,
yeah,
but it's working class in the sense that when it comes to the wrestlers, you can go, it's a true rags to riches thing. When it
yeah.
comes to the fans, you can be really close and intimate with these people who are like superheroes and like can embody all the positive things for the working class if the booker chooses to do so, kind of like Dusty Rhodes did a lot in the 80s.
Hmm.
But it's very, very, it's basically doing what Bobby Roode promised in NXT, just corporate types filling the seats.
Yeah, that's so funny. But yeah, I agree. And I think with pro wrestling, especially because it is so centered around the audience,
Hmm.
right? Like the audience is as much a character as the wrestlers, and the wrestlers being able to interact with them being so pivotal. We saw it with the pandemic. We
Hmm.
saw where no fans hurts the show. But if you don't have those fans who want to scream at the top of their lungs, who want to high five the wrestler on their way down, and you just have
Yeah.
people who literally, I've watched people in the front row who are just stone
Yeah.
faced. And I'm like, you're in the front row of WrestleMania or like the Raw after Mania, and
Yeah.
like whoever returned or whoever made a big, entrance, and you're just like, I'm chill. I'm like,
Yeah.
dude, do it would mean so much to have that seat to me as a huge
Yeah.
wrestling fan. Um, but you're hurting the show and you're hurting the
Mhm.
fans. You're also hurting the wrestlers because
Yeah.
their inability to now connect with the fans because that lack of proximity, physical proximity, um, it's going to impact their performance, and it's going to
Hmm.
impact the aura and the presentation of the show and like the feeling of the show for the audience. Because fans cheering leads to other fans cheering, leads to the whole entire audience cheering. Like it doesn't happen off of one chant. It's people coming together.
And like, I mean, whenever you see people saying, "Oh, the crowd was dead at this show," it's a thing. People are like, the crowd were dead. They weren't invested. Dave Meltzer in all of his star reviews, like the crowd weren't into this show, the crowd weren't into this match, and it's like, yeah, because more and more you're getting people who are there to basically say, look, I went to the WWE, I went to a wrestling show, and I think again, this isn't entirely on Triple H because
Sure.
clearly he's not calling the shots when it comes to the corporatization stuff. It's probably more so on someone like Nick Khan, but also he is such a pivotal point in their production at the moment. Even him saying, "Yo, let's maybe not do like $2,000 front row seats because I need to improve the product. I need an audience there that's going to engage." And you can with these corporate types, you can just be like, look, here's the statistics we pulled from the show where the decibels were higher on the
Right.
crowd and the ratings were higher on Netflix or some rubbish like that.
Right.
And as the guy who is the face of WWE at this point, especially from the corporate, from like a media perspective, I need to do something. He needs to do something.
Yeah. Yeah, but it just speaks to the kind of inevitable result of capitalism, right?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Because they just want more money, and the whole point
Hmm.
is just make more money. And people are paying for these seats, right? Like the wealthy people who can afford these seats, so they can say, "Hey, I was at this cool wrestling show," because WWE is kind of becoming more within the popular mainstream again.
Hmm.
So they can take their Instagram photos and everything and say, I was at this show, I got this seat, da da da. But again, you're now pricing out the middle and lower class that like built these
Yeah.
shows because they're true. Again, I don't like using that word, but I think people understand what I mean when I say true fans. They actually care about the wrestlers and their
Mm-hmm.
stories, both in ring and like as people, right? Because so many of us as devoted fans know a lot of these wrestlers' stories, whether it's their time in the indies, their injuries, Punk's whole thing of coming and going and everything like
Yeah.
that. Like we know these, we don't know these people, but we know a lot of what they have gone through to
Hmm.
get to this position. And then to not be able to see them and support them when like when the company is booming, it's extra hurtful.
Yeah.
I would love to
And
go to SummerSlam. It's in New Jersey. It's I'm right
oh,
by it, but I don't want to be in the nosebleeds for that, which is
I,
still like I think a couple hundred, which is insane.
I was like 30 minutes away from Money in the Bank 2023. Like literally I could have hopped on the tube that was next to where I lived and it would have taken me outside of the arena.
Mm,
And but then I looked at the tickets and was like, that's my rent. I'm not doing that.
yeah, yeah,
Uh yeah. And to be honest, Triple H is a big shareholder at WWE. Nick Khan is a very big shareholder. Everyone in the McMahons, I think minus Vince, I think he sold most of his shares,
right.
are big shareholders. So they benefit from corporatizing the show. Yeah, Triple H benefits from having these dead crowds. He is going to make even more money because they're going to sell $100,000 corporate tickets for WrestleMania next year or something.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, it's really frustrating um because it's hurting the business. It'll hurt the business in the long run. They're
Hmm.
booming now, but a lot of these people who are showing up just to say they went to an event, they're not coming back.
Yeah, something
And
else will
so,
come up.
yeah, but it's just like wrestling will never get to the point of like true pop culture relevancy again. It's
It's
just not going to
never gonna
happen.
be like it was in the early 2000s, late
Yeah,
90s.
then yeah,
Never.
it's not going to be a Game of Thrones type of. phenomena anymore. That was the 90s. It had its time.
Hmm.
So, yeah, in the short term, you're making a lot of money right now, but those fans are going to go away because they're going to
Yeah.
get their photos and their experience one and done, and then they're gone. They don't need to come back again because that's not
Hmm.
why they're there. They don't actually care. And then you're also now telling all the devoted fans, we don't care about you. And they're not they it happens slowly, but people do stop tuning in.
Yeah.
Like everybody
Yeah.
argues, oh, you're still gonna watch next week. I'm not. I was watching
Yeah.
every week before Mania. I'm not
Hmm.
watching again. I'm back to reading the results. I don't even know if I'm gonna watch Backlash live. I'm telling you, as
Yeah.
a devoted fan of 30 years, I don't know if I'm gonna or like resume watching wrestling on a regular basis. I This is something I've been kind of struggling with. Is I think for me at least I've outgrown wrestling very
Hmm.
possibly, especially as someone who studied film and television, and I
Yeah.
see this television show refusing to embrace its own, like, I don't know if lineage is the right word, but embracing the medium that it exists in and still treats
Yeah.
itself like a carny show.
Yeah.
I'm like, no,
Uh,
you have a responsibility to tell a week to week story. You can't tell your story one week and then think I have a different audience the next week because you still have your worldwide audience that's watching.
And honestly, it's the reason why I personally moved towards watching the more sports-based
Hmm.
presentations of wrestling, the Japanese wrestling, even the AEWs, the British wrestling, because at least they are sticking to like their roots. Like they treat the industry with a respect that WWE under Vince they didn't have. But at least with Vince, he was like, and again, I'm not praising Vince McMahon. I'm saying this is what Vince was like. Vince was like, I am WWE. This is what WWE is. It is this wrestling show that my dad loved more than me, that I love more than my own son.
Oh, God.
And
True.
now WWE's like, yo, how can we ring this for as much money as possible? And who cares if the fans can't attend? And I'm all for a positive from Triple H. They've cut the house shows, great for the wrestlers,
Yeah.
protects them, very good. Let's be honest, if the house shows were still around, they would be like $300-400 tickets nowadays.
Yeah. Yeah. That that's a good positive though to bring up is I think he does show more concern for the wrestlers' well-being and like their lives outside of
Hmm.
wrestling, right?
Yeah.
Like if someone has a kid or is getting married, or I don't even know if this is why Same is written off, but he was written off TV at the beginning of Ramadan. So I'm like, I wonder if
Yeah.
they kind of just
I
gave him that off time.
I remember reading he requested the time off. I'm not 100% sure if it was for Ramadan. It might have been probably played into it. I know that man's always going to be hurt because of the way he wrestled
Yeah.
before joining WWE. Like his body's just probably permanently damaged.
Yeah.
But even like Gunther, obviously he's they gave him the time off. He's in Austria at the moment. He's doing like food vlogs right now. It's very cute. He's like has a whole video on his Instagram talking about schnitzel.
That's funny.
It's hilarious. But Vince wouldn't have let him do that. Vince would have been like,
No.
you have to be standing at Raw, even though you're not going to be on the show.
Right.
Where,
Yeah.
whereas Triple H was like, yeah, Vince like basically abused me whilst I worked here. You
Yeah.
guys should go. It's good for the wrestlers,
Yeah. Yeah.
mentally, physically, everything.
Right. Yeah. It's a sustainability in their longevity for their careers. I think he gives more holidays off too. Like I think they do get
Mm.
Christmas off. They probably do a pre-tape show if I remember.
Yeah, they
Um,
pre-tape all basically your whole holiday season, like
yeah.
Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's.
Right. So I mean, that's honestly the biggest thing for me is because like I mean they don't give them health insurance still, but
Hulk Hogan, this is your fault.
yeah, that's a whole conversation for another episode. But yeah, I mean, overall, I would say I would give Triple H, it's like a food truck rating. I'm like, I give him a B minus. I'll say a B minus. Everything, like factoring in everything.
Yeah, I think it'd be a B minus because I think a lot of the things we are, especially the latter half of this episode, we have complained aren't completely in his control.
Right,
You know, if he was Vince McMahon doing all of those things, then it would drop his stock down to like a C for me.
right.
But because he's not in complete control of them, even though he materially benefits from it, and that's kind of the problem with capitalism. It's they only care about the shareholders and not the workers or the fan. Anyway, um, yeah, B minus. B minus is a good grade.
I'm surprised. I thought we'd both be way harsher.
I I feel like yeah, I think because at the end of the day, it's wrestling's wrestling,
Yeah,
and I do think the fact that he cares about the wrestlers as individuals
yeah,
really like gives him that bonus. I think again, if he was more like Vince in that sense, it would be far lower.
true.
But I think because he has like a little bit of a soul left, unlike Vince, who just clearly didn't have one from birth,
Right.
uh, because there's a little bit of a soul, I have to commend him, especially being in that business.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. But let us know in the comments down below what you would rate Triple H's current run with WWE. Are we being too kind to him? Were we too harsh? Do we just sound like two old men shouting at you through the computer screen? That's literally my goal for this podcast. Now,
Really,
where can the people find? Oh,
my goal is to burst people's bubble around the
oh,
wrestling
mm,
sphere that they existed. Big pop, just burst the bubble
big pop.
of all these ideas and preconceived notions that they have of professional wrestling. So,
Yeah, I'm popping their uh, minds too. Where can the people find you?
yeah, you can find me at Nuv the Poet, NAV the Poet, no spaces, no underscores on TikTok, YouTube, and Instagram. And what about
You
you,
can
Sully?
you can find me at Kayfabe Crimes. That's Kayfabe Crimes with the K, basically everywhere with the social medias. And you can find the podcast at Big Pop underscore pod on TikTok and Instagram, and Big Pop Podcast here on YouTube. Remember to like, subscribe, share this video with all of your wrestling friends. Follow us on all of our social medias. Yeah, thanks for watching. Bye.